And we're live.
Go ahead, sir. So I've read a little bit about your party from when you were the National Advancement Party.
Sir. Yeah.
And as I was telling my friend, I felt like it was very much kind of like, to use the Ontario Party kind of examples, none of the above, and the Libertarian Party, because you both had the participatory democracy of none of the above, but you also had a lot of the libertarian principles and values and stuff, but you were not quite free trade, I think would be the word, as libertarians. Is that a correct assessment of your party?
We're not libertarian, globalist libertarian. We're true populist nationalist, Canadian nationalist.
Okay.
And it's all about Canadians first. Libertarian is a pretty extreme ideology. You would argue it's open borders, globalist trade, bring in the temporary workers. We're all about the Canadian people. So
Okay, so
we don't ascribe to these globalist trade deals, TPP.
okay, so when it comes to economics, you would be, I guess, protectionist or mercantilist, for lack of a better term.
I'd say more practical, smart, fair trade is something we support. We believe the trade should be in the best interest of the Canadian people, not globalist corporations. They could be Chinese, U.S. multinationals who are bypassing our laws, bringing in cheap labor. It's not helping the Canadian people.
Okay, very much well, as your event calls it, Canadian first approach to
Canadians
economics.
first.
Yeah.
But that's what we support, and we think it's the best way forward.
Are you like the libertarians on the social issues of, allow it but don't fund it, or are you more socially conservative, socially liberal? I mean, I don't want to use buzzwords, but that's the only way I know how to describe the question.
No, that's fair. We don't identify anywhere on the spectrum. It depends on the facts, the knowledge on a particular subject, what we hear from the Canadian people. We will go left, right, center on any policy. And that's what true populist is, true nationalist.
So it sounds like, despite the fact they call you, I think it's far right or hard right, all right, I don't know what the terms they use. It sounds like you're very centrist in a lot of it, or at least in your approach, where it's like, okay, we're not going to devotedly be conservative in this thing or liberal in this thing. It's, what's best for the Canadians kind of approach, and if it happens to be further right or further left, it's what's best for Canada.
Yes, we don't strive to be anywhere on the spectrum. It's all about facts, knowledge, what's in the best interest of our people. If it happens to be on the right or somewhere on the left or in between there, it doesn't matter to us. We don't identify along the spectrum.
Okay,
we don't, and that gives us more flexibility as a party, right? So we can adapt to different situations in the best interest of our people, and that's true populism, nationalism. So that's how we operate.
I can get behind that. Yeah.
But the notion of far right, that's just media spin to smear, attack anyone who's against the status quo mainstream.
Okay.
That's why they do it. They're trying to pigeonhole you.
Okay.
As if it's kind of saying, "Oh, you're bad, right? We're gonna put you over here."
It's kind of like what they call it, putting a square peg in a round hole.
It's just not. It's not reality. This is delusion of the media. What they're doing. The mainstream media is they don't report facts generally. What they do is they tell you what they want you to believe.
Okay.
That's what they do. So it's a form of control, indoctrination.
Okay.
They're very selective what they share and how they do it. A good example is what happened with Gurtan Singh in my confrontation with him. It was all spun, factually
I'm afraid I'm not familiar with that event.
Yeah, it happened a couple of days ago, but the media immediately called me racist. There was no facts behind it.
So what area was it in that it took place, this confrontation?
The Muslim Fest.
Well, what city or right in?
Mississauga.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Mississauga.
so that's a good example of manipulation. But our supporters are smart people who are informed and they get it and they're spreading the message. And what kind of society do we live in when we have a mainstream media that does this, but also is getting paid by the government to do it?
Okay.
It's pretty, I'm thinking George Orwell.
Yeah.
George Orwell, right?
Right. Double speak, right?
Yeah, like the society we live in, it's like, and it shows the corruption in our society that it's so concentrated that they will vilify anyone who tries to challenge it and with the intent of making it better.
Okay.
Society, it just shows how corrupted it is, right?
Yes.
So that's what we're facing, but what we do at NCA is we share facts, knowledge with our supporters. We listen to them, we learn from them, they learn from us. We're strong. We're all strong people at NCA because it's all fact-based, right? So,
I'm gonna ask most of the questions. Does anyone else?
but today, like today, I didn't film it today. We were at an event in Hamilton here, and there was a bunch of protesters, but we wouldn't film them because they're just a product of that media. Why should we give them exposure? They were calling us Nazis, which is insane. We just had one of our supporters, Michael Arena, who's black, a black guy. He just happens to be black, from Markham, Ontario, and he endorsed NCA.
Yeah, yeah, and they accused you of, if you know one black guy, you know them all. But I mean, they're the ones that act like black people are monolithic.
We're going to an event tomorrow night with Hindu people and Jewish people.
Can I ask a question?
So none of this makes sense what they're saying.
I'd like to know then what your party can do for Jewish people. I want to know what your party can do for Hindu people.
It's not about one particular group. For us, it's all about all Canadians.
Okay.
We don't single out groups.
No, I recognize that and I respect that.
Yeah, so we're not singling out any groups like that. We're going to treat everyone fairly.
Okay. Well, fairly, yes, but everybody has interests.
They do have interests.
I find I've lived in Hamilton for almost 20 years now, and I find that Hamiltonians and Canadians have interests, and we have a huge percentage of our population is immigrants. We're a sanctuary city, or so they claim. And I find that the majority of the immigrants that I have befriended over my lifetime, free speech is important to them. They know why they came to Canada, right? And they are willing to fight for that, right? And so I'm just simply saying if there's a way to, I understand where you stand on immigration, but immigration coming in and the immigrants that are already here are two separate entities, and a lot of immigrants today are appalled at what's going on.
Of course they are. But my point to you is we treat all Canadians the same. Equal opportunity. We're going to get rid of affirmative action, which is favors certain groups over others.
Yes.
Really discriminating against traditional Canadians, and that's unacceptable. Obviously, we're going to uphold free speech. We want to get rid of the hate speech laws because we believe they're redundant.
They're impossible to enforce.
Well, they are being enforced, and in court, we know some people have been charged, and we're going to get rid of that. We were just censored on Facebook. Myself, I can't post.
Yeah, I just
We're going into election.
You just entered that phase.
We're going to an election, and I can't post for 2 weeks now. So how's that fair? That's political censorship.
How's that democratic?
Exactly. Because
How
I
is that not
interviewed a
extremely
guy.
alarming?
I interviewed a guy who was a Palestinian, and he was going on about Zionism. And I think it's because of his comments, which I don't think were that bad. I don't agree with what he said, but they're claiming.
I'm not sure what he said.
Oh, it's a couple. You'll have to check the video, but it's insane. We're going to complain about this and make it an issue, but this is what's going on, and we're not the only ones. Obviously, there's lots of people, but we got to get a wrap on that.
Well, yeah, it looks to me like you're being Faith Golden. You know, Faith Golden.
Well, they can't do the same as that because we're a registered party,
Okay.
so they have to be careful.
But they apparently can restrict your media.
Well, we're going to be filing a complaint about that. We'll see where it goes.
Good luck.
So, we were shut down recently in Truro. A few venues did not allow us to book a venue. And it went as far as the town of Truro. It was a CAO behind it who was behind one of the denials. But we actually filed 3 human rights complaints, and they've been accepted in Nova Scotia. So we'll see what happens.
Good luck.
But the point is, you got to fight back, everyone. You all know it. And that's what that thing was at the Muslim Festival. That was about fighting back, not taking the nonsense, which we all know about. The political correctness, the same. These pandering career politicians, just trying to get their votes. They don't give a damn about the country. So that's what that was about. We put our foot in the sand and we said no, right? So we thank all the people supporting us. We appreciate it, and we have to keep fighting.
Okay. 50,000 people. That's how many people you want to bring in?
50,000 or less.
Or less.
Or less.
How is that sustainable?
But prior to that, a moratorium with no end date. We're gonna have a temporary stoppage. It's called a moratorium.
Okay.
It's out of control, the migration into Canada. A lot of Canadians are misinformed. We did the research. You think there's only 300,000 coming in a year? We've done the research. We confirmed it with our immigration professionals. We also went to other researchers. This year alone, it's over 950,000 coming in.
But you mean like the Rockland Road and the lake?
Everywhere, through all channels.
Well, that's.
But there's, I have to stress, there's myths in society that we have nothing against immigrants. Understand that?
Mhm.
Nothing. This isn't about them. It's about our people. It's about our country.
It's just
Right?
about regulation.
Right? But there's a myth that immigration is good for the economy. It's good for capital income.
We're just not in mass doses.
No,
like
but it's
small
a myth.
doses.
Most economists agree that has minimal impact. A lot of Canadians have been indoctrinated. Oh, we need all this migration, but they've been misinformed. They've been lied to. Most economists, the most respected economist on immigration out of Harvard, this gentleman says this, as do most others. And most Canadians agree with us. They want severe or reduced immigration.
I
They're
saw
fed
that
up.
poll, right? And
Yeah,
I think
you shouldn't even believe the polls because there's a lot of manipulation with them. Be careful with even that,
True.
right? I bet you that number's even higher, right? It's all depending on the wording, who's paying for the poll, right? What do you have any questions, sir?
So I have an economic question. So when it comes to Ontario specifically, I noticed after doing some research of my own that I've noticed that over the past many decades that our manufacturing industry, if that's the right terminology, has been getting smaller and smaller and smaller over the years. You talk to people who are older, and they complain about how they lost factory jobs. They said, so many jobs here and there, but now it's hard to find them. The wages are worse. Do you blame that on free trade? Do you blame that solely on immigration? You feel like it's a bit of a both? What would you plan on doing about Ontario's manufacturing? That's one thing I'm really interested in. Because I know there's a lot of people out there who need work, better work than minimum wage. Not to say that minimum wage workers are a lot of factory jobs out there for people.
Yeah, excellent question. This country's been sold out by globalists. Globalist multinationals, globalist elitists. That's the reality. It's through the globalist trade deals. Most recently, TPPs signed in. I believe it was
Wasn't during the Harper?
in.
last
No,
year
it
Harper?
was January 2018 under Trudeau. The globalist TPP and all those mainstream parties supported it. And what that's doing is it's sending all the business out. It's open borders with these countries. So we have countries like Vietnam, Cambodia. China's around $3 an hour. Vietnam $1 an hour. So how can we compete?
It's very hard for the
So,
lower class
and then they're bringing in all these. China's in our country. exploiting our resources, sending them back unfinished, and then as cheap products. That's what's going on. So that's why we say we got to get out of these globalist trade. We got to have smart, fair trade. And to be honest, Trump is doing good in that area. At least he's fighting, right? He's because they're facing the same issue than us.
Right.
Their manufacturing is drying up too. But it's all connected to the selling of the country through these globalists.
Yeah,
They want to go set up in China, Vietnam. They send their cheap products in. They make more money. So how come we're not here? We're smarter than a lot of these people, right? Canadians.
China is very smart.
We can create great products here. They may be a bit more expensive, but we can create superior products here. But we've been sold out.
yeah, no, absolutely.
So we're gonna fight that big time.
That's like this one guy.
But you know what's coming down the pipeline? I just want to add something
Oh, yeah,
here. You know what's coming down the pipe? They're going to be pushing, and none of them are talking about Kanzuk, which would be wide open borders, Commonwealth bloc.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
And the Conservative Party actually adopted that in 2018. And that's scary. That will erode our sovereignty, because that means countries like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan could have free access to our country under that.
But
Even UK alone.
Right.
Look at all the nutcases in the UK. They got Sharia courts. There's an epidemic of knife stabbing, acid attacks. Do we want all that in our country?
I'm not sure.
Like arrested Tommy Robinson.
This is what's coming.
Well, actually, I recently learned a few months back. I was doing a little bit of research in the Mike Harris years here in Ontario. I don't think you'd be familiar with them, but as a means to reduce the massive deficit of the budget, he actually downloaded some of the civic court activities to Sharia and Jewish courts here in Ontario, which is a little concerning that, you know, non-state entities are deciding civic court matters. I mean, do you think that if your party was to form a majority, that maybe you could do something about these unofficial courts?
Yeah. So NCA has a great policy on this issue. It's called Ban on Political Islam, the practice of it. We would shut it right down. We're not against Muslims, but we're against extremes.
Right.
And we believe political Islam is so extreme that we gotta just ban it, just get rid of it. It has no place in this country.
This should remain secular at all levels. No
Government.
religion whatsoever.
No, it's okay for people to practice their religion in
No,
their
I
own-
mean just
right.
in politics.
So what I
But,
guess,
but it's anything but,
Right.
right? Look at Sikh Heritage Month, under Harper, Islamic Heritage Month. The pandering. I was at the event, the Muslim Fest. There was Gurtan Singh there, pandering to the Muslim community. But what you didn't see that day, there was conservatives there, and other mainstream parties doing the same thing. I just happened to confront him. They're all pandering.
I think he had a question.
so yeah, so what I think is, my question is that, so basically with that sort of idea, would that also be with other religions, like organized like religions and faiths and stuff like that? For example, like Christianity, Sikhism, Hindus, Orthodox Jewish, all that kind of stuff. Because I feel like while I do not consider myself a leftist by any means, I don't consider myself very right-leaning either. And I think for one of the biggest things, even though I myself am a Christian, I do 100% believe in the complete and 100% secularization of the state. And that in order to have a completely unbiased and fair and open dialogue between people, I think that faith, while good for communities and good for people, is not good for governing. So would you agree?
100%. We got a policy on the separation of religion and state. Go to our website. Take a look. National Citizens Alliance. However, we do preface it with the fact that we acknowledge that Christianity is the basis, one of the bases of Canada.
All
And
our
then-
values stem from that.
Yes, an integral basis. And that's something we respect. Does that mean we want that in government? No. But we do acknowledge and respect that.
Well, and
Because it's part of who we are as a people.
exactly, and I
Right?
think that's well. And for example, one of the big things is that even though the Queen of England right now, she is technically considered the head of state, although she has no political power because of the precedent set behind. She is also the head of the Church of England, Anglicanism. So why is I think for symbolic purposes and sort of understanding our heritage and understanding that, yes, a lot of Western ideals and a lot of our ideals as a country, specifically Canada, stem from that British influence and that Anglicanism and that Catholicism that we got from Quebec. And I think that a lot of people kind of misconstrued the idea that acknowledging and respecting that is allowing religion to influence government. And I think that's a lot of people have a little bit of a problem with that, or understanding that. I think that's kind of why you hear, especially the protesters we all experienced, they kind of, they label you guys, Nazis. But what they don't understand is that you guys are not white nationalists, you're civic nationalists, which is very much like, you're Canadians.
Yeah, civic nationalism is embracing anyone who's come to the country who identifies as a Canadian.
Exactly, and that's
and we do acknowledge that, but we do want to maintain the European Western traditions of our country. We're not going to allow it to be, let's say, taken over by Sikhism or.
Well, no, and that's exactly it. What civic nationalism, what I meant by it is that it's not it's not a race thing, as with like a lot of people associate sort of ethnic nationalism.
Yeah.
Whereas civic nationalism is everyone can be, I can be of Asian descent, he can be of African descent, and he could be of European descent, but we all we don't identify with that. We identify as Canadian.
Yeah. See, that's the issue we had at the event, the Muslim Fest. Look at some of our videos. The problem we're seeing with some of these people, there was an imam there. I would view him as a radical Islamic imam. He identifies as Muslim beyond everything else.
Right.
And see, that's a problem in our view, and we question why he's in our country, because we think he should be identifying as a Canadian beyond anything else.
Regardless of
Your religion, ethnicity,
even if you
your
are
belief,
Islamic.
your patriotism to your country should come first, in our opinion.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it works nicely in the past because Christianity was wedded into that fabric.
And exactly,
right? So that's the issue we're facing. There's a disconnect in our country now with these migrants coming in, and there's something called third world migrant populism. And we have video evidence at the Muslim Fest as well, where they were bringing up the treatment of Aboriginals by Europeans and justifying their own colonization of Canada. Right? So that's what they're doing now. And this is coming from the government, the media, so this is what we're up against. It's very disturbing. These people are coming in and they're very disrespectful of Europeans. They look down on them, and they're claiming ownership over this country. They say, oh, too bad, things change, right?
On that note, did you know that recently, I believe it's an official party now, I don't remember his name, but they actually have an Islamic Party in Ontario.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah.
There's also an Islamic Party of Canada, too.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Are they registered,
But, pardon me?
Are they registered?
I don't know, but,
Oh, okay.
the bigger issue in this country, we think, is communist China.
Right, yeah.
Even though it
Probably
is,
the biggest issue.
yeah, Islam is serious, but we've, there was a report in 1997, the Sidewinder report by CSIS. You remember that?
That's the one where they found they were buying large chunks of land in industrial centers all over Canada.
Businesses too.
Yes, and then they seized it all.
So that was 1997. Imagine now. Under Harper, right?
Yeah.
He let China buy a huge oil company.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, remember that? Nexon, I think. And then
somebody made the joke that that you could go out into the middle of the oil sands and just put a China flag there because it was owned by China now.
And we just found out this Bernier guy was tied to the mining company in Ontario who put up billboards for him, but they're tied to communist China who want to come in and exploit resources in northern Ontario.
Maxime Bernier?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're all in on it. That's why they all support globalist trade with China. The Power Corporation is based out of Montreal, the Desmarais family.
Yeah.
Except didn't Maxime Bernier change their official policy on that? They got rid of the Chinese-Canada free trade agreement policy?
No. He's a globalist, but it's in there.
It's kind of, he's very much.
See, that's a problem there, but they're all in on it. But if you understand the Desmarais family out of Montreal, they're the most powerful family in Canada. They're the most heavily invested in China. So now all this, once you start to connect the dots, you see what's happening to the manufacturing in Ontario. All through this globalist trade, it's all in China. That's why it's drying up, and they don't care because they're making money. Right?
Yeah.
Where are the jobs in Ontario?
They're in China.
Yeah.
I drove around Ontario. Look at it.
I find it.
Look what's going on. It's empty. There's
Dude, in our city, where we're from, I mean, there's a small industrial park, but all the old factories are gone.
Yeah.
There used to be a cordage company that made packing twine. It was the largest producer of packing twine in all of the British Empire. 700 people were employed there, and it's gone now. It's an art block where they do theater and shows and stuff. It's all gone.
Like, even if you talk to a lot of
it's
people,
very sad.
like pre-NAFTA, I know a lot of, my parents are very old, they're in their 60s, and I've met a lot of people in that age bracket too, in that generation, and they tell me about all the factories in Brantford. We used to be an industrial hub in the center of all these other towns, and all of a sudden, this trade agreement comes in, and Mexico gets a lot of the jobs.
There you go.
More free trade agreements.
You see? Look at South Korea, free trade. Right?
You have free trade with South Korea?
That was under Harper.
I remember that.
That was under Harper, and NDP went along with it. And now Trudeau, no one said anything. This was last year. The biggest globalist trade deal ever in Canada's history, TPP.
Right.
Right?
From what I remember, Trump.
And now they're pushing. They want to push globalist trade with India, Kansas, with potentially all 53 Commonwealth countries.
I'll admit though, I myself do not oppose some sort of regulated semi-free trade with former members of the empire, but I don't want that to include mobility. Like
It will include it. Because these are globalists, that's what they want.
Because
they don't want the borders. That's what globalists are about. They don't care about borders. That's what makes them globalists. So you're not going to get that. And
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, just keep that in mind because that's what they're pushing. We're against it. So Canadians, wake up, get informed. We have a great video on cancer. It is real. It's actually official policy of the Conservative Party of Canada. So go look at our video, get informed on that. But they are pushing it. It's going to be wide open borders. So Canada will cease to exist. So who's going to benefit? Are the Canadian people going to benefit? Ontario?
Definitely
No.
the corporation.
Multinationals, investors, developers,
the anywheres, as
You see?
Mr. Harper used to call them.
right?
Because they can live anywhere.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
So that's the reality. So we got to fight it, and we are fighting it. And more Canadians are waking up to NCA, which is really positive.
I just love how, for a lot of the times, so I worked a lot of manufacturing jobs. I'm only 24, but I have worked a lot of manufacturing jobs. And the funny thing is that I found an interesting fact. Again, if this is wrong, correct me. But one of the largest manufacturing employers in Ontario, specifically southwestern Ontario, is Toyota. A Japanese company is paying the highest wages and is providing the most amount of jobs to Canadians in southwestern Ontario. Why? Although very much appreciative. I love working for them. The thing is, how they work is they give each country that they operate their factories in their own separate entities, and they're essentially run in Canada with oversight done in Japan. But why isn't that a Canadian company? Why isn't the number one spot a Canadian company? And that's what I find a little, although again, like, I don't mind, but at the same time, I would very much like to see the number one spot go to a Canadian manufacturer. Like, for example, Steel Car here. Why aren't they, like, I understand that maybe, yeah, the supply for steel cars and, the rails are not being used nearly as much, but why are Canadian manufacturers not opening up their doors here instead of moving to countries like Mexico and stuff like that? As a liberal, socially liberal person, I don't understand why people are okay that they can be socialist and hate what's happening with corporations, but then be angry when also people are like, well, okay, let's do something about it and gut free trade and make it so that we can, protect our own interests and protect our own economy, and then they go bananas. I just find that kind of ironic in a way, how I'm a crazy right winger because I think free trade is bad, and I think that we should protect our own interests, but you guys thinking that we should be able to, like, there shouldn't be any corporations, it should just all be run by the state is okay. And that's where I kind of am. I think that the political climate is just absolutely crazy right now because of it. And people like you guys who are just looking out for, in your own ways, the Canadian interest is, you guys get labeled with all these names that are, so damaging that it doesn't make any sense.
It must be very stressful too.
Yeah.
See from your perspective that you're doing what's best for the Canadian people, and yet they themselves can't understand that being economically nationalist is what's best for the Canadian people. They gloss over that.
It's not isolationism either.
No.
At all.
No.
But it's putting your people. You're not signing a TPP for these multinationals. You're doing it for your people as a whole. Yeah. You see that? There's
Every
a difference,
single Canadian citizen.
right?
On the economic notion, I have a question for you. Now, I am not a socialist or communist by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I'm very anti-socialist, anti-communist. However, I do understand that sometimes nationalization is necessary. Do you possibly support partially or fully nationalizing the oil industry? Because I've noticed from research that a lot of companies that work in the oil sands are not Canadian, and even the Canadian ones are majority owned by foreign investors. So that means all the money that we make from oil sands is not going to Canadians, it's going to outsiders, for lack of a better term.
Wonderful, sir.
Would you support nationalizing the oil industry to try and keep that money in Canada for Canadians?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. He's touching on a real issue, and in our opinion, the oil sands has been completely mismanaged, primarily from political corruption. This is common sense. There should have been major refineries there decades ago. Refining the product, sending it out finished. It's never happened because there's about 5 giant international oil companies that own about 85% of the oil sands. And they ship it out unrefined down to Texas and then send it up refined for more cost. And now they want to send it to China unrefined, and they may send it back, or
They're going to make us buy...
you see, this is exploitation.
So what would you do about getting
the
it
issue
back?
here, the problem, we're smart Canadians. I think we could run our own, but a lot of people say we don't have the technology or the skill. I believe we do, but that would be very controversial because you're going to go against the epitome of the corruption in this country and these international giants. Because look at, you can look at Venezuela as an example. They nationalized it. Look what happened to them.
Right.
They have a socialist thing, but they've been in the crosshairs of the U.S. ever since.
Right.
I think, I think it's with the technology issue. I think that's kind of a weird argument that people throw out of why we can't use. We don't have the technology because we do, especially with specifically in the treaties and the various alliances that we have with various countries. Like, for example, the close relationship we have with the United States, the UK, and members of the European Union. We all share our technology. Obviously, certain military secrets and stuff like that are all, kept a secret. But
Yeah, and just remember the pipeline thing.
Right.
That's just a red. All that's going to do is ship out unrefined oil.
so,
But what we should be discussing is how do we bring these major refineries in? Because A, we're going to create jobs in Canada, and we're going to ship out finished product.
so
And you don't need to go even have a high school degree to know that.
So with regards to that, and I 100% agree.
Yeah.
But one of the things is would you be opposed to the idea of doing so, but with a more environmentally conscious plan in place to get that oil, refine it, and do so where it's not going to be harming the local areas around it? Because that's one of the major criticisms. And the thing is that I find it weird. Because as an environmentalist, I love Canada's environment. We have some of the most beautiful landscapes, some of the most beautiful forests, like environments you can think of. Why wouldn't we want to protect that? So, but at the same time, I understand also as an environmentalist that industry and resources are important. So is there a way that you guys would be able to balance that out or anything like that? Or?
Yeah. We believe in polluters pay, accountability, and they should pay, right? And we believe there should be more incentives for the private sector to invest in more efficient processing. That's something we support. But the problem with the oil sands, it's very inefficient compared to raw crude. The amount of water that is required to produce a barrel, it's like 12 to 1.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a big issue. And then the tailing ponds and all that.
So do you believe in investing money into technology that would improve the
At least incentives.
Yeah.
Incentives for the private sector. We don't think the government should be in that business.
Right.
But at least providing more incentives to minimize the harm.
Yeah, exactly. So give them tax incentives.
100%.
Yeah.
And but wouldn't it imagine the jobs in this country if we had mega I know we have a big refinery on the East Coast, Irving. Imagine in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, mega refineries for the oil, diesel, gas. Imagine the jobs.
Yeah, it'd be a lot.
Imagine the jobs. And that's the problem with this country. We've been sold out. We have communist China in here. We have U.S. companies in here exploiting our resources. And now they want to sign more globalist trade deals.
I do have a question for you. Since we're on the subject of technology, I don't mean to cut you off.
Because we should be the richest country in the world.
On the subject,
Right?
Yeah.
With our resources.
The thing is that that's the thing is that we have so much natural resources. And for example, do you know about the Arctic with all the oil that's underneath there?
Yeah.
We, again, correct me if I'm wrong. The UN found through the research of all the countries that share the Arctic Circle, we had the majority ownership of the Arctic based on how our tectonic plates work. And we actually, along with the United States, owned a large section of where that oil is. And the thing is that although I very much am a believer in climate change, we cannot stop it, unfortunately. That is just something that's going to happen. So why not take advantage of what's there and cleanly, environmentally consciously take advantage of that resource
My battery is getting low.
and use it to benefit
My
Canadians. That's what I'm saying. And then benefit not only ourselves, but just, not have to rely on foreign oil like from Saudi Arabia and other countries. And that's my biggest problem, is that why are we so critical of countries like Saudi Arabia, but then, we buy all this oil from them?
Yeah. See, there's politics involved.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So that's a good issue. We're going to have to wrap this up. Is there any outstanding questions?
Well, I have two.
All right.
One is social, one's economic. I'll do the economic. You mentioned the technology and technology improvement. I know, you talked about the four major parties being globalist and being all for free trade and secrets and stuff.
There's no such thing as free trade.
Fair enough.
It doesn't exist. That's just rhetoric.
Right. But my question is, Bombardier, under...
That's how they control people.
Correct.
Even Shanghai Free Trade Zone is not free. Mexican Free Trade Zone is not free. So anyone who's saying free trade, it's just a buzzword. It has no meaning.
Well, okay, so the technology question is...
Maybe the only free trade is if you and I are neighbors and I trade you a banana for an apple.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know, that's probably free trade.
Fair enough. But Bombardier, during this Trudeau years, hopefully it's just more, tried to do some kind of a deal with China where they would move some of our aviation technology or factories to China. And the only reason they didn't go through with it was because there was a massive backlash because, aviation technology is kind of the holy grail of Canada. You protect it at all costs, but it seems like companies are trying to undermine that, and major parties don't, unless there's a massive backlash, don't seem opposed to them doing this. What kind of measures would you take to protect Canada's aviation industry?
Yeah, it's a good question. It has to be in the national interest, and it's going to have to be evaluated. We want to allow free market, but at the same time, we have to protect our national assets. So it's about finding a balance there.
And the second question,
Because we want competition, right?
Yes.
But you can't be afraid of using terrorists to protect jobs, right?
Right.
Or retaliation from another country. That may be currency devaluation,
Right.
right? To get a trade advantage.
Okay.
But if you look at our trade with China, we're in a huge negative. I think it's around 30 billion deficit, trade deficit with them.
And the second question, you mentioned traditions and values. I know education is more of a provincial matter, but I was wondering, other than maybe education, what ways would your party, again, if it was got a majority, would try to enforce and emphasize Canadian values and traditions?
In the educational system?
Or outside education, if possible. Just because, I'm a strong believer in Canadian values
Of course,
and traditions.
100%. So,
But it's getting harder to define what they are, and we're not really taught what they are other than this globalist, multicultural garbage.
Right after you shoot right.
that's a big question.
Sorry.
But we would, one thing we would do is completely amend the Multiculturalism Act so it's focused on promoting and enhancing traditional Canada. Because right now it's focused on promoting and enhancing foreign cultures in Canada. So we would flip that. So it's also the CBC we would get into that agenda.
Okay.
There's some people that want to sell the CBC off. We think that's a bad idea because then it would just go into some globalist corporation, right? So it's better if we retain control of it and use it to promote what we believe in, right? So we would use it to promote in a fair, objective way, but we won't want it to promote the facts, but also promote Western society, traditional Canada, right? Another thing, dealing with free speech.
Right.
We would, remove the obstacles to that. Again, religion and state. Because right now, what's happening with the state is these minority religions are infiltrating it. That's a big problem in our country.
Just keep it secular.
Yeah. So that needs to be cleaned up. It's been completely infiltrated now.
Okay.
There's a lot of issues here on the table. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
Another thing is immigration too, coming in. That's one of the major threats to traditional Canada.
Maybe like a slow immigration policy so that the people who come here have a chance to integrate into the Western values that we.
But people are coming in, not integrating.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
Unfortunately. I mean, we have a lot to offer. It'd be nice if.
There's actually a replacement migration going on, and it's tied to the UN Population Fund. Go look it up. They actually talk about it. And as I said already, the migration numbers are, the media's lying to you, the mainstream parties are lying to you. They're closer to 1 million, over 950,000 that are coming in through all streams in 2019. Think about it. If you care about traditional Canada, you got to deal with the migration. These people are coming in. Look at our videos from a couple of days ago. They don't give a shit about us. They're coming in. They're justifying the treatment of Aboriginals, and they're colonizing the country.
About a couple days ago, Mr. Singh, you asked him a question about the Muslim Brotherhood. What I found strange is why that question. Like, I wouldn't walk up to you and ask you that question.
Because there's a 10-minute video prior to that.
Yeah.
Did you see that? What he was
When
saying?
you were walking around, but I didn't hear him say anything about the Muslim Brotherhood. No.
No, he said Islam is all peace, love, and peace.
Yeah.
Like Scheer and Trudeau and the other ones.
Okay.
So we were challenging him on that.
Okay, but I would.
And he was talking about Islamophobia. It's an issue.
Yes.
So we brought it up to him. That's why
Oh
we
yeah,
brought it up to him.
Islamophobia is a junk umbrella term. You can mean
No, but he was
literally
talking about Islamophobia and pandering to the Muslim community. So
Yeah.
I pointed out to him
Okay.
that Islamophobia was actually created by the Muslim Brotherhood to actually silence
And that's where
criticism
this
of
is
Islam. And he immediately called me a racist.
anything. Yeah.
That's what happened.
Well, no, I just.
That's
why
why
would
I
you,
asked him.
Why would you
That's
just walk
why I
up
asked
and
him.
say why? Okay.
That's why.
I appreciate
so
your answer.
if you watch the 10-minute video, you'll see that.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it again.
Watch the 10-minute video, listen to him speaking, and he talks about that. I want to thank everyone today for coming.
Absolutely. It's nice to meet you.
Great conversation. Great conversation here. Thank you.
for taking the
Thank
time.
you very much, sir.
I do appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Bye-bye.
What about me?
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Bye-bye.
I'll do you too.
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you.
Now, sorry to cut it short. My battery's getting real low.
No worries.
It's okay.